What if I told you that one of the greatest comedies ever made was almost ruined by a studio that didn't want Jeff Daniels in it? Was largely improvised by a man who had his own tooth deliberately removed for the role, and featured a dog-shaped van that someone later paid over $120,000 for at auction. Dumb and Dumber, the 1994 masterpiece about two men so catastrophically, legendarily, almost inspirationally stupid that they accidentally stumbled across the country and nearly ruined a federal kidnapping investigation, is packed with behind-the-scenes facts that are almost as unhinged as the movie itself. 20 facts. 0 intelligence required. Let's go. Fact 1. Jim Carrey improvised freely. Let's start with the most important fact of all. Jim Carrey showed up to set, looked at the script, and treated it like more of a loose suggestion. The Farrelly brothers have described directing Jim Carrey as, and I'm paraphrasing here, pointing a fire hose at the scene and hoping something sticks. Carrey would dutifully do one scripted take. 1. And then he'd look at the director and say, "Okay, now let me try it my way." And his way? His way almost always ended up in the final cut. Every bizarre facial spasm, every unhinged vocal jump, every random non sequitur Lloyd throws out like a man whose brain is operating on a completely separate frequency from everyone around him. Pure Jim Carrey. Made up on the spot. On camera. With people watching. The man didn't act Lloyd Christmas. He became Lloyd Christmas. Which, honestly, raises some questions about Jim Carrey as a person that we won't get into today. Fact 2. The annoying sound was improvised. Speaking of things Jim Carrey invented on the spot, you know the scene. Lloyd and Harry have picked up a hitchhiker. Normal enough. And then, without any warning to anyone on set, Jim Carrey opens his mouth and produces what can only be described as a sound that should be classified as a war crime. Jeff Daniels's horrified, pained, defeated expression in that moment, 100% genuine. He had no idea it was coming. The hitchhiker actor, Mike Starr, visibly flinches because he's a real human being who was just acoustically assaulted by Jim Carrey at point-blank range. The crew kept rolling. The Farrellys kept it in. And that sound, which cost nothing to create and took approximately 2 seconds to perform, became one of the most quoted moments in 90s comedy history. Just a man, a noise, and the complete destruction of everyone around him. Fact 3. Studios didn't want Jeff Daniels. Here is a truly galaxy-brained Hollywood decision that almost happened. Studio executives at New Line Cinema did not want Jeff Daniels in this movie. Daniels was known as a dramatic actor, serious films, respectable stuff. And the suits looked at him and said, essentially, "This man is too normal, too competent looking. Get us somebody funny." They lobbied hard for established comedy names, big, broad performers who could signal dumb from the poster alone. The Farrelly brothers said, absolutely not. Their argument was brilliant. The joke only works if Harry Dunn seems like a reasonably functioning human being who just happens to be, upon closer inspection, devastatingly stupid. A big, broad comedian would telegraph the idiocy too early. You'd see it coming. Daniels made you believe just for a second that Harry might be okay. And that's what makes the comedy land. Daniels screen-tested multiple times. The studio eventually caved. Jeff Daniels then delivered one of the funniest performances of the decade. Every single executive who pushed back on that casting was wrong. Categorically, historically, completely wrong. Fact 4. Jim Carrey was paid $7 million. Now, 1994 was a very specific moment in history. Ace Ventura had come out. The Mask had come out. Both were enormous hits. Jim Carrey was, at that exact moment, the most in-demand comedic actor on planet Earth, and he absolutely knew it. So when Dumb and Dumber was being locked in, Carrey's people came to the table and said, $7 million for a comedy in 1994, when the entire film only cost $16 million to make. That means Jim Carrey personally earned nearly half of the entire production budget just to put on a bowl cut and act like he'd never encountered a concept before. Studio bean counters were reportedly sweating. Then the film made $247 million worldwide. Nobody said anything after that. Fact 5. The chipped tooth was real. Look closely at Lloyd Christmas's smile. That slightly chipped, goofy front tooth that makes him look like a golden retriever who just discovered stairs, that is Jim Carrey's actual tooth. As a kid, Carrey chipped it. Got a dental cap put on it. Kept the cap on for years because Hollywood demands a perfect, symmetrical, blinding smile from all of its leading men. For Dumb and Dumber, he had his dentist remove the cap. Lloyd Christmas essentially gave Jim Carrey permission to show his real childhood tooth in public for the first time in years, which means somewhere in this absurd comedy about two idiots driving a dog van across America, there's actually a kind of beautiful story about authenticity. I may be reading too much into a chipped tooth. Moving on. Fact 6. Jeff Daniels' wig was miserable. Harry Dunn's iconic shaggy bowl cut, that magnificent orange-brown catastrophe sitting on Jeff Daniels' head, was a full wig. And it was, by all accounts, an experience. It was hot. It was itchy. It smelled progressively worse as filming continued through the Colorado heat. It shifted between takes, meaning continuity supervisors spent half their time anxiously staring at Jeff Daniels' hairline like it owed them money. Daniels has brought it up in interviews with the specific energy of a man who has not fully processed the trauma. And yet, that wig is one of the most recognizable hairstyles in comedy film history. People have dressed as Harry Dunn for Halloween for 30 years. Kids who weren't born when the film came out recognize that haircut. All of that legacy, all of that cultural impact, built on a sweaty, itchy, vaguely odorous piece of fake hair. Worth it. Fact 7. Our Pets' Heads was improv. The scene where Lloyd erupts into a spiraling list of everything that's wrong with their lives started from a scripted base. There was a script. It existed. But Jim Carrey, as was his custom, kept adding to it. Each take, the list got longer, more unhinged, more disconnected from logic and reality. And then, on one particular take, after cataloging their very real problems, no food, no jobs, no money, he just threw in, "Our pets' heads are falling off." It makes no sense. It has nothing to do with anything. It is the non sequitur to end all non sequiturs. The Farrellys immediately flagged it. That take, that line, that is the one. That goes in the movie. And it did. And 30 years later, people are still quoting it. Because sometimes the funniest joke is just a fully committed man saying something completely insane with total sincerity. Fact 8. It wasn't actually shot in Aspen. The entire film is set in Aspen, Colorado. That much you know. What you may not know is that most of it wasn't filmed there. The bulk of exterior shooting took place in Breckenridge, Colorado, chosen because it was cheaper, more available, and on camera, completely indistinguishable from Aspen. The East Coast scenes were shot in Providence, Rhode Island. Now here's the fun part. Locals in Breckenridge were delighted by the production. So delighted, in fact, that they kept wandering into shots. Just regular Colorado residents casually strolling through the background of a major motion picture, completely unbothered. The crew reportedly spent a significant amount of time and energy managing enthusiastic townspeople who simply wanted to be in a movie. Honestly, respect the ambition. Fact 9. The laxative scene destroyed the crew. The scene where Harry unknowingly doses his dream woman's tea with industrial-strength laxatives, leading to a bathroom sequence so catastrophic it could be classified as a natural disaster, required many, many takes. Not because the actors struggled. The actors were fine. The crew could not hold it together. The sound department was particularly vulnerable. They reportedly had to rotate people out because they kept losing composure mid-take. You cannot record clean audio when you are weeping with laughter. And yet these were professionals being paid to do exactly that. The scene itself was considered quite bold for mainstream 1994 comedy. There were genuine conversations about whether audiences would walk out. Instead, it became one of the most beloved sequences in the film. The crew's tears of laughter were not wasted. Fact 10. Carey dated his love interest. Lauren Holly plays Mary Swanson. The woman Lloyd Christmas is hopelessly, delusionally, catastrophically in love with. And during production, Jim Carrey was dating Lauren Holly in real life. They eventually got married in 1996. Divorced the same year. But during filming, there was a very real romantic relationship happening between the man playing an oblivious idiot who can't talk to women and the woman he was failing to talk to. Carey has said this made certain scenes genuinely surreal to film, particularly the ones where Lloyd embarrasses himself in front of Mary, because Holly was trying not to laugh at someone she was actually romantically involved with. The line between Lloyd's hopeless pining and Jim Carrey's real life was, for a few months in Colorado, extremely blurry, which is either very funny or very strange, possibly both. Fact 11. There's a chance nearly got cut. This needs a moment of silence. The scene where Mary tells Lloyd his chances with her are like 1 in a million, and Lloyd responds with, "So you're telling me there's a chance," with the energy of a man who has just been told he won the lottery. Almost didn't make it into the final film. Test audiences thought it was too much, too delusional, breaking believability even for this movie. The Farrellys refused to cut it. They argued, correctly, that this line was the thesis statement of Lloyd Christmas as a character. A man so constitutionally, almost heroically optimistic that he can reframe any failure as a victory if he squints at it hard enough. They were right. That line has been quoted, memed, referenced, and repurposed in virtually every context imaginable for 30 years. The test audiences were wrong. They are always wrong. Fact 12. Petey was a puppet. Real bird was feral. Petey the parakeet, Lloyd's beloved pet bird who has, through a series of events we don't need to examine too closely, had his head taped back onto his body, was portrayed primarily by a puppet. However, for close-up shots, production used a real bird. And that real bird, a living, breathing, fully alive parakeet, spent its entire time on set attempting to bite every single person who came anywhere near it. The props crew bore the brunt of this. There is a genuine irony in the fact that the bird being used to portray a dead, passive, immobile animal was, in reality, one of the most aggressively alive creatures on set. It had opinions. It expressed them with its beak. Repeatedly. The tape on the neck gag was reportedly inspired by a real story Peter Farrelly had heard years earlier, which raises its own questions that we also will not be exploring today. Fact 13. Mike Starr spent a day dying in a diner. Mike Starr plays Joe Mentalino, a hitman who makes the catastrophic professional error of getting into a car with Harry and Lloyd, and then the further catastrophic personal error of eating a burger that Harry has laced with his own ulcer pills, which are actually rat poison. The elaborate scene where Mentalino progressively deteriorates, sweating, shaking, convulsing, dying, in the middle of a diner was filmed over the course of an entire shooting day. Multiple setups, multiple lighting configurations. A full day of Mike Starr throwing himself into physical comedy death on a diner floor. The crew reportedly applauded when they finally wrapped his death scene. Starr has said in interviews that it remains one of his favorite days of his entire acting career. This man spent a full working day dying on a dirty restaurant floor and called it a highlight. That is dedication. That is artistry. That is a very specific kind of insane commitment that the film industry quietly runs on. Fact 14. The dog van sold for over $120,000. The Shaggin' Wagon. The van, shaped like a dog, with ears, and a tail, and a snout on the hood. A fully road-legal vehicle constructed from scratch specifically for this movie, so that two grown men could drive it across the country and have no idea it looks insane. After filming, the van made appearances at events and promotions. It lived a full life, and then it went to auction. Now, what would you pay for a dog-shaped van? Be honest with yourself. Whoever bought it paid over $120,000. $120,000 for a van shaped like a dog from a movie from 1994. There is no rational explanation for this. There is only passion. There is only love. And somewhere out there, right now, a very committed Dumb and Dumber fan is either driving that van with immense pride or storing it in a climate-controlled garage and telling every single person they meet about it. Either way, we respect it. Fact 15, the ROI was absurdly high. Let's do some math. Don't worry, it's simple. This is a Dumb and Dumber video. Budget, $16 million. Jim Carrey's salary alone, $7 million. Nearly half the budget. For one actor. Worldwide gross, $247 million. That is a return of approximately 15 times the production cost. From a movie about two men who are too stupid to be trusted with a map. For context, that's a better return on investment than most actual financial instruments. You'd have made more money investing in Dumb and Dumber in 1994 than putting that money in a savings account. The film validated the Farrelly brothers as major commercial directors, cemented Jim Carrey as the biggest comedy star in Hollywood, and helped usher in the entire wave of raunchy buddy comedies that dominated the late 90s. All from $16 million and a bowl cut. Fact 16, Daniels' agent told him not to do it. Jeff Daniels had a career. A respectable one. Dramatic roles. Serious films. The kind of work that gets you invited to nice dinners and taken seriously at meetings. And then he told his agent he wanted to play a man so deeply stupid that he could not be trusted to function independently in society. His agent said, "Don't." The specific concern was typecasting. That playing someone this comprehensively dumb would signal to serious directors that Daniels was now a comedian, and the dramatic work would dry up. Daniels did it anyway. The film became the biggest commercial hit of his career to that point. He went on to win Emmy Awards for The Newsroom. He received widespread critical acclaim for serious, prestigious work. The agent was wrong. The agent was so spectacularly, completely, historically wrong that it almost loops back around to being impressive. Let this be a lesson. Sometimes the right move is to play the guy who can't figure out how a toilet works. Fact 17. The moped scene was one take. There's a small scene early in the film where Lloyd sells his moped, his beloved beat-up little scooter, his primary mode of transportation, before the cross-country trip begins. He sells it with the gravity and solemnity of a man parting with something truly precious. He treats this moped like it is a Lamborghini, like it is a piece of his soul, like he is making a sacrifice that history should record. It is a moped. The Farrellys filmed it essentially once. Jim Carrey's energy in that scene, the pride, the delusion, the utter commitment, was so perfectly calibrated that attempting to replicate it felt pointless. So they used what they had. It's a blink-and-miss-it moment in the film. But it is a small, perfect jewel of character comedy. And it existed, fully formed, in a single take, because sometimes genius just shows up, and you have to be ready to catch it. Fact 18, a cult subplot was cut. An early draft of the script included a storyline, cut before filming, in which Harry and Lloyd, through a completely avoidable series of misunderstandings, become briefly entangled with a cult somewhere along their road trip. The Farrellys developed it, thought about it, and then realized it had a fundamental problem. To navigate a cult, even accidentally, Harry and Lloyd would need to notice the cult. They would need to register that something unusual was happening around them. They would need some baseline level of situational awareness. And Harry and Lloyd don't have that. The boys are funny because the world happens to them. They don't react to the world. The world just keeps hitting them in the face, and they smile back. Putting them in a cult storyline required them to perceive a threat that, honestly, they probably wouldn't have noticed at all. The subplot was cut. The boys remained blissfully unaware of everything, as it should be. Fact 19. The franchise refused to die. Dumb and Dumber was a phenomenon. And like all phenomena, Hollywood immediately started figuring out how to wring every last dollar out of it. First came Dumb and Dumberer. When Harry Met Lloyd in 2003, a prequel made without Jim Carrey or Jeff Daniels, featuring different actors playing younger versions of the characters. Critics were not kind. Audiences were not kind. history has not been kind. Then came an animated TV series in the mid-90s that ran briefly and is now remembered by approximately 40 people. And then in 2014, 20 years after the original, Carey and Daniels reunited for Dumb and Dumber 2. It made money. It divided fans. It existed. The fact that two characters defined entirely by their inability to learn, grow, change, or retain information somehow sustained a franchise for 3 decades is either a testament to how perfectly realized they were, or a profound statement about human nature, or possibly both. Philosophers haven't weighed in yet. We'll update you. Fact 20. They stayed in character between takes. And finally, the fact that somehow ties everything together. According to multiple crew members and supporting cast, Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels maintained their characters between takes throughout production. Not in an intense, serious, method-acting way. In an absolutely chaotic, contagious, impossible-to-ignore way. Carrey would respond to normal production questions. Jim, we need you on your mark. Jim, craft services is open. Jim, please stop doing that. As Lloyd Christmas, fully committed, completely sincere. Daniels played along as Harry. 2 grown, professional adult men wandering around a Colorado film set in character as people too dumb to dress themselves for weeks. The set, according to everyone who was there, had an energy that was equal parts anarchic, exhausting, and completely unforgettable. Crew members have described it as one of the strangest productions they ever worked on, and also one of the best. And maybe that's the secret. Maybe the reason Dumb and Dumber still holds up, still makes people cry-laugh 30 years later, is because everyone on that set, from the directors to the stars to the crew trying not to laugh during the laxative scene, was completely, joyfully, all in. They made a movie about 2 idiots, and they did it with everything they had. Which is, when you think about it, the smartest thing anyone could have done. And there you have it. 20 facts about Dumb and Dumber that prove the movie behind the movie was almost as chaotic, unhinged, and frankly unbelievable as the movie itself. A chipped tooth, a feral parakeet, a dog van worth $120,000, an agent who was catastrophically wrong, and 2 men too committed to their characters to stop being idiots even when the cameras weren't rolling. If you made it this far, first of all, thank you, you beautiful, patient, clearly discerning human being. Second of all, hit that like button right now. It takes literally 1 second, it costs you nothing, and it makes a meaningful difference to this channel. That's a better deal than Lloyd got on his moped, and he thought that was a bargain. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the movies, facts, and behind-the-scenes chaos that you didn't know you needed in your life, because there is a lot more where this came from. And drop a comment below. What's your favorite Dumb and Dumber moment? The most annoying sound in the world? The 1 in a million line? The bathroom scene that changed cinema forever? Let me know. I read every single one. Until next time, stay curious, stay weird, and for the love of everything, do not accept a ride from 2 guys in a dog-shaped van.